European countries had the standard expected response to October 7th, the immediate response being, uh, condemnation, empty statement that Israel has a right to defend itself, and of course, followed by condemnation of um, any attempt to actually defend itself, and so on. Some countries, by the way, some of us were saying on October 7th and in the days afterwards how this will play out, including on this channel. I recommend going and watching those shows. But we knew that, the support for Israel is as European support for Jews in Europe was in the past. As long as they die, we can maybe condemn the killers, but if they defend themselves, they are the villains. Uh, some countries took it a step further. Norway, in the what was it, 3 months afterwards, upon discovering that UNRWA teachers were involved on October 7th, decided that that is a reason to double their funding to UNRWA, and so they did. Um, Norway was one of three Western European countries to decide that October 7th deserves a reward in the form of the recognition of a Palestinian state. And so they did. And now France has decided that that is also what should happen. Emmanuel Macron has issued some strong words about the plan for Gaza, the deportation plan. He said it's not a real estate place; it's a place with history. That's why there's a war, because it's a place with history, and so on. Um, Israel's prime minister's son, Yair Netanyahu, a very controversial figure in Israel, decided to respond to Macron. We're going to read the original and the response on this show and try to figure out who was right. Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm Razi Ginsburg. I'm joined by Daniel Kraus. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Thank you, Mary, for the super chat. Daniel, any initial thoughts? We haven't read the tweets yet, but anything you want to say before we read the tweets?
Well, first, big thank you to Yair Netanyahu, who used really strong language, which was something Benjamin Netanyahu has criticized. He basically stood by his son's words, but said sort of the language he took might have been better. But
Oh
I
yeah, we
love,
will read. By the way, we should read Netanyahu's
yeah,
responses. Yeah.
yeah, but sort of having, well, it's on a thumbnail, so people know, but like having like a really quotable short thing is really great for making thumbnails. Oftentimes when I'm like, when we discuss something, I have to go through article like 5 times trying to find like something short, something quotable, and it's usually super hard. So and it's sort of right here, and he's not a politician, so he doesn't as far as he's not, right? He's like a personality, but he's not a politician, as far as I'm aware. Uh, Yair.
Yes, he's living in Miami. Last I heard, this is controversial in Israel as well, because why is he in Miami? But yeah, he's been hated, and look, we criticize Netanyahu all the time. I've said, from right after October 7th and before, that he should go. He should go of his own volition, not by some regime change or whatever Chuck Schumer and Biden had in mind. But yeah, there is this thing where, anything associated with Netanyahu, certainly his son, who's very supportive of his father and of Israel, which, sometimes doesn't go together. Yeah, so he's hated in Israel, but let's go to the tweets. So this is Emmanuel Macron in English on X. This is the quote: "I'm reading all sorts of things here about our intentions for Gaza. Here is France's position. It is clear. Yes to peace. Yes to Israel's security. Yes to a Palestinian state without Hamas. This requires the release of all hostages, a lasting ceasefire, the immediate resumption of humanitarian aid, and the pursuit of a political two-state solution. The only path
Wait, are we
possible."
reading the whole thing? Are we not
Do you want to
going?
pause here? Okay, let's pause here. Yeah, we can pause here. I have to say, so far, it very much sounds like he's running for Miss Universe or something, and he talks about world peace, but does not talk about how any of this is achievable. And wording, again, wording when it's in writing, I scrutinize more than when it's in extemporaneous speaking. And I'm reading all sorts of things here about our intentions for Gaza. Who cares about your intentions for Gaza? It's nowhere near where you are. You have no say. Uh, Shut up, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, recently also the European Union has approved more funding for the Palestinian Authority, so we know maybe he's speaking sort of on the behalf of European Union, which usually has very united sort of foreign policy, similar to France. I mean, similar to most European Union nations, bar few. I mean, yes to peace, or like anybody who calls for peace is like it's like everybody wants peace. Like it's a really dumb thing to say, because nobody like straight up wants war. Everybody sort of like wants peace, but what does that peace look like? Like, yeah, if all the Jews go out of Middle East, there will be peace between the nobody in the Middle East and the Palestinians or Arabs who stay there. So like it's that sort of like thing that doesn't make any sense on its own. Now, yes to Israel's security. I mean, again, that's sort of like everybody says it, but like nobody actually. It's like a floating abstraction for them. Like, yeah, we want Israel's security. We want Israel to have security. But any steps that would actually ensure that security, no, you cannot take those. You do not want when you do not want the actions that are associated with something uh, then you don't want the actual thing. It's like people who say, they want to stop drinking alcohol, but they keep drinking it or something. Like you need to actually take the steps that would ensure you actually doing that. You cannot just say something and I guess this is sort of like a new thing. Have you heard about manifesting? It's like when you like start saying something or when you start thinking of something, you might actually bring it into reality. So maybe Macron is jumping on that trend. And then yes to a Palestinian state without Hamas. So the Palestinian Authority is that like our like shining beacon that will save us? Again, Mahmoud Abbas is like the most unpopular politician probably in history. I think he's like his approval ratings are probably like 4% or something. Like all Palestinians want him out, and they're not in favor of somebody more aligned with Israel or more aligned with the two-state solution or wanting more. It's people like Marwan Barghouti or even Ismail Haniyeh when he was still alive was more popular than Mahmoud Abbas. So again, who is this? Who are these magical Palestinians that we are like negotiating with for peace?
Yeah, I agree with the analogy. I definitely support a 12-step program for Emmanuel Macron. The daily objective is live 7 days a week. The reality show is live 5 days a week. That's 12 steps for you, Emmanuel. Within a week, you will get better. Okay, let's read. It was also, I should say before I continue to read that it was a European a minister of a European country whose philosophy was different in many ways from the Palestinians, but whose goals when it came to the Jews were identical, who said that if you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. And here, Emmanuel Macron tries his best. The only path is a political one. Okay, I'm going to pause this. By the way, I was going to keep reading, but because of you now, we're going to read it bit by bit, but it's fine. We can go a bit over with this and then if we have to, and then TRS can start a bit late. Look, for 30 years, for 30 plus years, we've had political solutions one after the other. Every single one of them resulted in more death, more misery, more control of the worst elements within Palestinian society, which is, the competition there is stiff, but the worst elements being the ones in charge of educating future generations. And those future generations, the result of the peace process is October 7th. That is what you got from the political solution. Whereas if you look at Israel now, in a year and a half of, again, half-ass military action, not what needs to be done to really achieve even the stated goal of eliminating Hamas, you see that the results are that from there, from Gaza, October 7th will not happen again anytime, in the near future. So this is just not true. France would still be under Nazi rule if the approach to liberating France was going to be let's beg Hitler and ask him what is it in us that makes him so mean to us and wanna murder us. Daniel, your response to that, and then I'll try to read more than one sentence in the next go.
Well, I have like four lines under this one sentence. I mean, first of all, it's a complete refusal of agency for the Palestinians, which is something I've seen when it comes to Western sort of. I mean, we've talked about Dave Smith. He does that also with Russia. This idea that completely refusing agency to people. I mean, Palestinians uh, commit violence on October 7th and before and after, and somehow they still sort of like want peace. They do not want peace. They want to fight. If you check any poll, if you check anything, they all want to fight. And when you ask them, some people say, well, they want a two-state solution, but I want a two-state solution which is like drive out 500,000 Israelis from the West Bank, completely ethnically cleanse West Bank of Israelis, including East Jerusalem, return all the Palestinians to the lands, and completely be, you know, and not care about anything else. It's like unsensical sort of a thing. So they do not want. It's just, and even if they, and whenever they get any sort of pumping on the brakes from Israel or sort of pulling out of Israel, they use that to commit more violence, to push for more things. So they simply do not want this sort of magical political solution that Macron is thinking of. And I mean, was then and yeah, so we tried that. It simply never worked. Uh, when you want to talk about sort of a peaceful solution, and I was trying to sort of go back in history and when did sort of this idea of political solutions ever work? And there were sort of a few that you could think of, sort of like peaceful divorces when countries separated or when one party was given sort of like an independence or has been given autonomy. But all of them included that both sides actually wanted peace and wanted something better for the future, which is something simply not true for the Palestinians. They do not want any sort of reconciliation with the Israelis. They want to kill them. They want to drive them out of not only the West Bank or Gaza. They want to drive them out of all of Israel. Uh, and they all want violence. It's not just Gaza. In the West Bank, they do commit violence. They do, now Mahmoud Abbas has refused to basically make it even stronger, the pay for slave program. Uh, and that's like, wow, they are willing to work. They actually will pay less for the terrorists. They will reward less the terrorists who commit violence against Jews. I mean, if that is not the step in the right direction, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned the West Bank. Again, I said an October 7th attack can't come out of Gaza now. It can come out of the West Bank. If it does, Macron will condemn it, will say Israel has a right to defend itself. Maybe he'll wait a bit before he reminds people of the two-state solution. Maybe he won't. I don't know. I don't think in the immediate aftermath that was something they said. But depends who you ask. Before we keep reading the tweet, since the tweet was not sent by Macron in a super chat, we will prioritize Roland's super chat. Thank you, Roland, for the super chat. Roland says, fun fact, during communism, the Eastern Bloc described itself as, quote, the peace camp. Oh, and they were all for, quote, freedom, too. Yeah, whenever I see something that starts with fun fact, I object to the definition of fun that you would have to accept in order to read that. But yeah, I mean, look, we hear about Gaza, we hear, free Palestine and protests by people who are communists in many cases here, in other cases Islamists, like all the worst elements of humanity gather in those pro-Hamas protests we see in city centers around the world pretty much every weekend, and they talk about freedom. So yeah, they big part of their agenda is making sure to use words not in the way that you should, because they are trying to push an agenda that people won't buy if they knew what it was. Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
let's.
just quickly about the communist thing. I mean, that's exactly the thing, right? they want peace. So, we want a peace in the Eastern Bloc. So when there is a revolution in Czechoslovakia, we'll brutally suppress it. When there's a revolution in Budapest, we'll brutally suppress it. When there is a revolution in Poland, we'll brutally suppress it. That's the exact same of thinking, which is, I think, a good observation, is that, people who call for peace are actually calling for a complete destruction of the West, or a complete sort of surrendering of the good to the evil. Because, again, when one side wants to commit violence against the other side, and let's say that's a given, then the only way to have peace is for the side that is defending to surrender. When somebody tries to beat you up in a club, the only way to have peace is to let yourself be beaten up, or to basically give up. That's the only way to sort of not escalate the violence. And I'm quoting for people on the podcast.
What kind of clubs are you going to, man? What's going on there?
It's
All right, let's.
Eastern Europe.
Sounds like a club in Emmanuel Macron's friends. But anyway, let's continue with the tweet. I support the legitimate right of Palestinians to a state and to peace, just as I support the right of Israelis to live in peace and security, both recognized by their neighbors. The upcoming conference on the two-state solution this June must be a turning point. I am doing everything I can with our partners to reach this goal of peace. We truly need it. To succeed, we must not ease our efforts. Let us not give in to shortcuts or provocations. Let us not allow any misinformation and manipulation to spread. Above all, let us stay tuned. You can't say, let us not allow misinformation and manipulation. Two paragraphs after saying, I support the right of Palestinians to legitimate state alongside Israel, both living in peace and security recognized by their neighbors, when you know all of Palestinian society rejects that idea. There is no two-state solution on the table on the Palestinian side. There isn't one on the Israeli side post October 7th. But if Israelis want to be loved more than anything, unfortunately, and so and Israel as a country seems to go that way. And if Palestinians pretended, there was some organization with any sort of clout that pretended like they want peace, Israel and Israelis would buy that, because even though they know better, because they want that, but it doesn't exist. So you are spreading the misinformation, you are doing the manipulation, and Yair Netanyahu called you out on it, and we're gonna get to that after anything, Daniel, you have to say about what I just read.
I mean, him saying the sort of legitimate right of Palestinians to a state and to peace. Until when? I mean, how much violence do they have to commit until you say, yeah, you know what? You actually don't get a state at this point. I mean, we did that in the past so many times. Like what is my question would be, what is the turning point? What do the Palestinians have to do to make you believe they do not want peace, they do not want a state, when sort of Israel had no control over Israel and all of the West Bank, including East Jerusalem? Did they make a state? No, because they didn't care for it. They were in Gaza, they were living under the Egyptian rule, which was completely, which they were not even giving the right to citizenship. If anything was apartheid, I mean, that would be something close to that. In the West Bank, they were giving Jordanians citizenship, and they were glad to live under Jordan. They didn't care. Well, they cared when they attacked Israel again. So again, this is like anybody who says calls for like a two-state solution, or calls for self-determination for Palestinians, do not actually listen to Palestinians, because that is not the number one goal. The number one goal is to get rid of Israel, and whatever steps can be taken that would bring them closer, that's the steps they will take. If sort of this arguing for two-state solution will allow them to kill more Jews, that's the steps they will take. And because they are authoritarian, they are close to dictatorship, or pretty much a dictatorship. And whenever you make a deal with them, they only do it so they can hurt the good guys, so they can hurt the Western powers. Any deal that we make with Palestinians, any deal we make with Russia, with Chinese, is not actually benefiting us. It's only benefiting them.
Thank you, Bulmus, for the super chat. Bulmus says, it's like when Confederate apologists just say they wanted states' rights, but they don't. But they won't say the right to do what? slavery. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, we're talking about they would have accepted peace, probably, but yeah, we don't want to talk about the Palestinians, and we want to talk about the Palestinians less the more we support the Palestinians. I use the we, generally about Westerners. But yeah, Westerners very much do not Westerners who know what they're talking about, like President Macron, do not want us to get to know the Palestinians because this kind of agenda among decent people will be rejected immediately. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Thank you, Christian, for the super chat. Christian says Macron fears riots in France. Like many European politicians, he's well aware of the fifth column destroying the West from within with the help of a postmodernist left. That's not an excuse for him any more than it's an excuse for Netanyahu that he fears pressures from Biden, so he's not going to defend Israel. If you don't think you can be a leader who's going to, withstand pressures, don't take a position of leadership. Also, Christian, I think you're being generous to Macron because you're assuming that he doesn't believe what he says and he just has to say it. I don't know, and I have no reason to assume that's the case. It could be that he really wants to give these people a state. And yeah, I'm not gonna give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe he's lying, which is yeah, Daniel.
Um, I mean, sure. Let's give him that. I don't know enough about Macron, but that still makes him complicit. Like he's still doing the thing. If he really disagrees with that, he can resign. He can get out. Well, he's a president. I don't know. Well, you can always resign probably from any position. Uh, so he is complicit in that. And so like I will still criticize him for it, and he is doing the committing of the thing. Like it's like like you could say that that same thing about like any leader. You know, Adolf Hitler had to invade Poland because his party like wanted it or the people wanted it. It's like well one he contributed to the party and two well, he can get out if he wants. But I mean that is even like a completely different sort of like comparison. Uh, but yeah, he's the one doing it, so he's the one that will be blamed for it.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, the problems in France, Christian, that you were pointing to absolutely exist. But again, I question if Macron sees himself in any way as the solution. Israel, Gaza aside, the solution to his internal problems, or a hopefully it won't blow up on my watch kind of politician, which I think they pretty much all are. All right, so Benjamin Netanyahu's son Yair has responded to that. Um, did I ever mention the story of how, when I was setting up the Ayn Rand Center UK, I was talking to somebody, I think I may have mentioned this very recently, but I'm not sure. I was talking to somebody who I was hoping would be a big financial contributor, help us get off the ground, and he said, "Yeah, I heard you're doing great stuff there, and it's looking good, but I heard you're not very diplomatic." And I thought, you know what, that's a really nice compliment. I mean, diplomatic, what does diplomatic mean? It's like you're basically not saying what you mean in a sense. That's not an exact definition, but I think it's a essential part of it. Yair Netanyahu is not diplomatic, which is why he's my favorite Netanyahu. Let's read his response to Macron. Screw you. Yes to independence of New Caledonia. Yes to independence to French Polynesia. Yes to independence of Corsica. Yes to independence of the Basque Country. Yes to independence of French Guinea. Stop the new imperialism of France in West Africa. Uh, I I like that. Look, it's not really a full-on argument, but it is a way of saying you are in no position. You are not the person who's going to preach to us. Nobody is the person who's going to preach to us. If you're going to preach to Israel that it shouldn't fight back, to those who want to exterminate it. But yeah, if there is going to be a response, I like it. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of response, is calling out, in a sense, hypocrisy, which is usually sort of resonates with people. I don't necessarily like that because you're sort of admitting that sort of standard, but it's a good thing to call out. And also, I'm glad I know actually where all those places are and those independence movements. So it is actually pretty good point. Although the sort of neo-imperialism in West Africa, that's also like an icky point. But it doesn't really matter. He's calling out his BS. He's calling like this idea of trying to tell another nation sort of how to run their internal policies, which we do on sort of like every day. But we are not politicians of actual countries. And I think that's the fundamental difference. Like, if you are a president uh, or any sort of public official, prime minister, or any even sort of anybody within the government trying to tell other nation how to run their courses is I think should be very sort of faux pas. It should not be something that we say, oh yeah, it's actually a good point. So yeah, what else do you say about that? I think it's a good response. More people should call out. I mean, you could compare it to similar thing when Chuck Schumer, in America called for like a Netanyahu to step down, or basically called for like Netanyahu removal. I mean, that's not the thing you can say. Uh, you can hate the guy, and we know Biden and I mean, even Chuck Schumer like really hate Netanyahu. I mean, I do share that sentiment to some extent. But when you do that sort of a thing, or recently Trump, referring to Canada prime ministers as like governors, that's like you don't do that stuff. I mean, especially when it comes to people that are actually your allies. I mean, Israel is American ally. Canada is American ally. Uh, Israel should be French ally as well, but I'm not that sure about that. So I guess in that way, it's a bit different.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat says a diplomat is an uh, acceptable liar. I mean, I don't know. In many senses, many jobs are, that would apply to. Um, Davy Boy says he should not make factual errors. Guinea versus Guyana. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it happens. I think that obviously the issue with this tweet is the screw you at the beginning, which, again, is part of why I like it. I don't know if I would like it if the prime minister himself tweeted something like that. But I would like to see stronger language from the actual leadership. And yeah, if you are not in a position of leadership, you can allow yourself a bit more. Again, Yair's father, Benjamin Netanyahu, is in a position of leadership. He is the prime minister of Israel. This is his response on X, which was in Hebrew. This is the Google translation. I haven't read through it, so if there's any issue with it, I hopefully will catch it while reading it. I love my son Yair, a true Zionist who cares about the future of the country. Like every citizen, he is entitled to his personal opinion, although the style of his response to President Macron's tweet calling for the establishment of a Palestinian state is unacceptable to me. President Macron is gravely mistaken when he continues to promote the idea of a Palestinian state in the heart of our country, whose sole ambition is the destruction of the state of Israel. Until this moment, no Hamas or Palestinian Authority official has condemned the atrocities of the worst massacre committed against Jews since the Holocaust, which indicates their true attitude towards the Jewish state. We will not jeopardize our existence because of illusions disconnected from reality, and we will not accept moral sermons from the establishment of a Palestinian state that would endanger the existence of Israel from those who oppose granting independence to Corsica, New Caledonia, French Guinea, and other territories whose independence would not endanger France in any way. This reminds me of why I really loved Netanyahu in every role he's ever had except prime minister. He knows how to talk. Even translated by Google, he sounds great. And if he was this forceful against all the attacks on Israel, that would be a good thing to see. But also, what caught my eye there is he understands essentially what we've been saying, which is that the Palestinian people are Israel's enemy. It's not one organization or another. And yes, all the organizations that represent them will not condemn October 7th. No other new organization popped up and said, hang on, why are our official representatives either celebrating this or not even condemning it? We will do that. Nobody has said it. Nobody has done it. You understand that a Palestinian state would threaten the existence of Israel and the lives of all Israelis. Why don't you understand that this is true even if they don't have official statehood? Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who talked in the chat about diplomacy or diplomatic, but sort of Netanyahu's response is just sort of like a diplomatic response. In essence, it's absolutely the same as what Yair has said. He just didn't say screw you. Because, that's sort of like a language you usually don't use when it comes to sort of the diplomatic things. But that's the spirit of it. I mean, that is what Macron is doing. He is calling for a destruction of Israel in essence. That is what Netanyahu is calling out. That is what Yair is calling out. Well, that is something that Benjamin Netanyahu, I guess I should clarify, is calling out. But Yair Netanyahu is not even directly calling out because, as Benjamin has said, uh, uh, all of those territories that were called out, well, Basque region is directly in France, but most of those territories are not directly in mainland France and would absolutely not endanger France in any way. Although I would say we should it's Guinea is in Africa and Guyana is in South America, and I would be glad if Guyana stays as part of a French territory because technically that's part of the EU, meaning you can go to South America as it's actually part of Schengen, so you can just simply go there. So European Union is actually very big because all the territories of both UK and France are considered part of the EU.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with you that we should hope for these territories to be what they are or something else based on how which line you'll have to take in passport control. But that's a topic for another day.
It's a much shorter line.
Am I the only one who thinks this tweet could have been better if he started with "Pardon my French," but screw
Mm.
you, Macron? Anyway, uh, we can discuss that on the reality show. Probably not, because we're going to discuss the reports that Israel has destroyed the last remaining functional hospital in Gaza. What will Gazans do? Find out on the reality show, which starts in a couple of minutes. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you on the reality show.